And joining me now in the studio is our Euronews correspondent, Alistair Sanford. Alistair, thanks so much for coming on set. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu does seem to have a predilection for props, doesn't he? But how important was what he actually said?
Yes, Isabel, commentators say that the Israeli Prime Minister seems to enjoy the stage set at the UN's General Assembly to try to grab the world's attention. He took no time yesterday in launching into Iran and his central long-standing accusation that Tehran is trying to deceive the world and is still trying to produce a nuclear bomb despite the deal and all the efforts to constrain it. He accused international inspectors of not doing their job, basically. He said the nuclear deal was a bad deal that brought war closer, not further away. And he launched a blistering attack on Europe, accusing it of appeasing Iran, a deliberate choice of the word, he said, which of course has echoes of the 1930s. Now, as far as these techniques you mentioned, yes, he's done this before. In 2012, he produced a cartoon bomb before the UN General Assembly to back his argument that Tehran was getting pretty close to producing a nuclear weapon. Earlier this year, he said Israeli agents had uncovered a secret archive of documents about Iran's nuclear program. Tehran denied that. And now we had this extraordinary presentation with maps and pictures to illustrate, again, his case. He said, what Iran hides, Israel will find. So he says they've got this secret atomic warehouse in the heart of Tehran. He later illustrated it on Twitter, going, look, check it out on Google Earth, anyone. There's this innocent-looking compound on Mayor Street. It's not exactly what you think it is. And he says that since Israel discovered this, Tehran has been moving the material away and spreading it around the Iranian capital, 300 tons of it. So in response to that, he says, well, you can get a Geiger counter on Amazon for $29.99. Anyone in Tehran, go and check it out for yourselves.
Well, but these are really, really big allegations. What's behind them? Is there anything concrete behind them? And what's the reaction been?
The claims, as always like this, are pretty difficult to verify. Iran predictably has dismissed the claims. The foreign ministry says the world will laugh loudly at them. Iran's foreign minister, Javad Zarif, says more scrutiny should be paid to Israel's nuclear program. The US State Department, on the other hand, says these are serious claims and they should be investigated by the IAEA urgently. But other US officials are a bit more skeptical, saying, well, they're aware of this facility and that they think it's really just a case of documents and papers rather than nuclear material. And one or two analysts saying, well, even if it was nuclear material, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's in contravention of the nuclear deal. And there's some skepticism even in Israel. The Jerusalem Post had a bit of an amusing article saying, if you're watching Netanyahu's speech, here's our Play Bibi bingo game. Bibi's his nickname, of course. And every time he comes up with one of his favorite themes, like UN bashing or Iran's nuclear program, bingo.
Well, Alistair, you've been watching the United Nations General Assembly pretty closely, and Iran's clearly dominated it, but there's been a lot of other highlights. What stood out for you?
Lots of storylines, and of course the main thing is Donald Trump and Iran, but I think the memory of Donald Trump saying, I've achieved more in 2 years than any other president in American history, and of course the laughter that provoked before the UN General Assembly. But more seriously, you have got a dramatic presentation of alternative visions here. Trump with the nation state and sovereignty versus now perhaps Emmanuel Macron of France. Putting himself forward, if you like, as the new leader of the free world and defending multilateralism. You had President Rouhani staunchly defending the nuclear deal and saying that US sanctions were tantamount to economic terrorism. And there were some touches getting away from all that sense of foreboding, if you like. New Zealand's Prime Minister with a very human touch, bringing in her new baby, Jacinda Ardern, bringing the baby in, new 3-month-old Neve, which is the first time a world leader has brought a baby to the UN Assembly like that.